Order. I now call the Standing Committee on Public Accounts to order. My name is Kelly Regan. I'm the MLA for Bedford Basin and the chair of this committee. A reminder to everyone to place our phones on silent. And I'm going to ask committee members to introduce themselves, beginning with MLA Young.
Morning, everybody. Welcome. Nolan Young, MLA for Shelburne.
MLA Taggart.
Good morning and welcome. Tom Taggart, MLA for Colchester North.
MLA McDonald.
Good morning. John A. McDonald, MLA for Hants East.
MLA Sheehy Richard.
Good morning and welcome everyone. Melissa Sheehy Richard, I'm the MLA for Hants West.
MLA Coombs.
Good morning. Welcome everyone. Kendra Coombs, I'm the MLA for Cape Breton Centre, Whitney Pier.
MLA McGuire.
Oh, God, that noise. Brendan McGuire, Halifax Atlantic, MLA. Good to see you all. Oh.
MLA White.
Good morning, I'm John White, MLA for Glace Bay and Dominion.
So on today's, I should note that officials from the Auditor General's Office, Legislative Council Office, Legislative Committee's Office are in attendance as well. On today's agenda, we have officials with us from the Nova Scotia Legal Aid Commission with respect to their most recent annual report, business plan, accountability report, and financial statements. I will ask the witnesses to introduce themselves, beginning with Mr. Ash.
Good morning, George Ash, Chair of Nova Scotia Legal Aid Commission. Welcome.
Ms. Moore.
Good morning, Charlene Moore, CEO of Nova Scotia Legal Aid.
And Ms. Cain.
Good morning, Jennifer Cain, Director of Finance, Nova Scotia Legal Aid.
Thank you. Mr. Ash, would you like to make opening comments?
Thank you. Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. I am joined by, as you just heard, our CEO, Charlene Moore, and our Director of Finance, Jennifer Cain. We are pleased to have this opportunity to speak to the important services Nova Scotia Legal Aid provides to Nova Scotians. Access to legal aid services is an essential element of a free and democratic society. Supreme Court Justice Wagner has described legal aid as essential to ensuring justice system that is fair and efficient for all. He has been quoted in saying that an investment in legal aid was a smart investment. There have been several studies nationally and internationally about the social return of investing in legal aid that would support Justice Wagner's statements. In 2016, the CBA produced a report entitled Study on Access to the Justice System Legal Aid. In that report, they found that investing $1 in legal aid led to savings of $6 on public spending for other social services. In other words, investing in legal aid generates social and economic returns that extend beyond the representation provided in court. NSLA provides a full range of legal services in criminal, family, and social justice, ranging from summary advice to full legal representation for low-income and vulnerable Nova Scotians. NSLA is committed to providing the right service at the right time and in the right way for Nova Scotians. NSLA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan reflects our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the delivery of services and in the development of our workforce. NSLA recognizes that we can only fulfill our core values by respecting each other and those we serve, being accountable for our actions, and focusing on the good of the whole. NSLA's commitment will include expanding community outreach and partnerships that support African Nova Scotian and Indigenous communities, anti-racism initiatives, and substantive equality for all equity-seeking groups. NSLA continues a long-standing commitment to collaboration with justice sector stakeholders and community partners to support individuals and families navigating our criminal, family, and civil systems. Looking forward, NSLA will continue to identify opportunities to ensure that vulnerable Nova Scotians are able to participate meaningfully within the justice system. NSLA's commitment to access to justice will include continuing support for increased use of restorative justice to divert matters from criminal courts, assistance for families at the earliest stages of child protection involvement, enhancing the use of NSLA service specialists like our social justice support worker, prison law support worker, African Nova Scotian social worker, and Indigenous social worker to support our clients in criminal and child protection matters. NSLA is committed to ensuring the health and well-being of our workforce that will prioritize renewed recruitment strategies, improved retention, and greater resiliency in all staff. We are committed to creating a great place to work that is supportive of our legal aid team who are strong advocates for our clients. NSLA will continue to support utilizing a drama-informed approach within and outside our organization. This will frame issues and responses that align with the experience of our clients and is in keeping with NSLA's strategic priorities under the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan. Innovations in intake and eligibility processes, improving access and service for our certificate clients, redefining outreach, strengthening our social justice delivery, creating flexibility in workplaces, and using technology to create more options for service and operational delivery so that we are proactive and not reactive. Ongoing advocacy for modernization of our financial eligibility and private bar tariff systems, hybrid work environments and technological supports and training needed to enable remote work and remote court appearances for staff and offices, modernizing our case management and finance systems, certificate management system, improving data collection, measurement, and reporting. Most importantly, NSLA continues to operate in a fiscally sound and accountable manner, ensuring core services are maintained while continuing to innovate according to identified strategic priorities while staying on budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, and I'm just double checking that no one else has any opening remarks. Okay. Thank you. So we'll now begin questioning with the Liberal Caucus, and you have 20 minutes, so 9:27. Mr. McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for everything you do. I think it's a bit of a thankless job. I know that just from my own personal experience, from being in the with you being in the community, and which started with Charlene Moore, the CEO, coming to Spryfield on what was supposed to be, I think, once a month or something like that, ended up being obviously a greater need in the community. And I want to personally thank Nova Scotia Legal Aid for everything you've done in our community. You know, we've been able to, and I say we collectively as a group in the community, have been able to do a lot of things over the last 10 years. But I think this is probably one of, if not the most impactful thing we've been able to do in the community is the services that you brought into the community, and it's helped a lot of people. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for that. I guess I'll start with, how many clients per year are you, on average, does Legal Aid deal with? And how annoying is this noise?
Ms. Moore? Yes.
Thank you for the question. I'm just going to look at our 2021-22 fiscal year. So our applications that we received during the course of that year was, I think, 41,474 applications. And that includes full service delivery to clients, and it also includes our duty counsel services that we provide to clients. And what's really notable about that from our perspective is about half of our services we provided that year were duty counsel, meaning that anyone who there was no financial qualification to utilize those resources, and that was both in our criminal court and our family court.
Mr. McGuire.
I don't know much about the other firms, but I would bet you Legal Aid is probably one of the busiest, we'll say, law firms in Nova Scotia. It's pretty incredible the amount of people that come in and out of those doors. Is it fair to say that if there was more money that you'd be able to take on, that there'd be a greater need? So do you think that you're filling the entire void for legal aid in Nova Scotia? Is there room for more if there was more resources? I'm not saying you to do more.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. Nova Scotia Legal Aid has benefited from relatively stable funding for at least probably the last 20-25 years. And so in relation to other legal aid plans in the country, we're doing reasonably well in terms of the per capita. But there's always more that we can do, and if we could do more, we would do more. What I I can say is that we've been extremely innovative in the resources that we have had to continue to expand and provide services within the fiscal constraints of our budget. There is a couple of areas in which, in order for us to do more, there would have to be further investment. And it was noted in Mr. Ash's opening address that that would relate to the financial eligibility and our certificate private bar system.
Mr. McGuire.
I'm glad that you mentioned financial eligibility. We obviously know that things are getting more and more expensive. Inflation is happening, cost of power, cost of housing. Obviously, that's taking away from people's income. More is being spent on the necessities. Are you finding over the last, we'll say 5-10 years, has the clientele changed? Are you seeing more people that maybe you normally wouldn't have seen because of the cost of living and because of inflation and because of the expenses that are now being put on families?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. We track financial eligibility, and one of the things that we're very good at is our data collection. And so we've been tracking the eligibility makeup of our clients and the clients also the people that we represent and the people that we don't represent. So over the last decade, there certainly has been an increase in the number of people who apply to legal aid who have income. Just to back up, under our regulations, we provide legal aid to anyone who is in receipt of income assistance. We also provide we provide legal aid to individuals who don't have income if there is a reasonable explanation for why they don't have a source of income. In addition to that, we provide legal aid to Nova Scotians who have income based on if they're in a position equivalent to income assistance. And we also provide legal aid if it would create undue hardship. So the percentage of people who have income who qualify for legal aid has increased. We can document that over the last 10 years, and it's probably ranged from 40% to I think in 2019-20 it was closer upwards of the late 40s. I could provide that statistical data if the committee was interested in that. One of the steps that we took to recognize that we wanted to serve more Nova Scotians who are low income, and that really is the focus of the people that we try to represent, was that we put in place a policy that extended our guidelines by if you were over 20% or more, whether we could continue to provide legal aid to you, and in some cases we would ask for a contribution agreement, and so that we could provide legal services. So we've tracked that. We've always tracked it, but over the last decade, we saw more individuals for whom we would provide contribution agreements to. And we track where they fit within the 20% or more over. So I'd say in 2019, about 40% of clients were in the 80% or over who had applied for legal aid and who did not qualify. So we can't always represent everybody who is over that eligibility guideline, but the ones that we even reject, we follow the connection that way. So we've taken steps as a commission to look at the eligibility guidelines. We've looked at other legal aid plans in terms of what they've been doing with their eligibility guidelines. We looked at what it was that we wanted to do, which is to have an eligibility system that's fair, transparent, easy to understand, inclusive, and reflecting a low-income measure that would help us to serve more Nova Scotians.
Mr. McGuire?
How many communities are you in?
Ms. Moore?
Well, we have 23 offices and 3 sub-offices. Just let me check. There is always get the number of our offices. It's like a moving target sometimes. So you have 23 offices and 3 sub-offices. So we have legal aid offices wherever there is a courthouse. We have what are called sub-courts. So we have duty counsel, family duty counsel in the Sydney Family Court and in the Halifax Family Court. And then we have a small Liverpool office that's like a satellite office.
Mr. McGuire.
What's the average caseload per solicitor at Nova Scotia Legal Aid on average? Like how many clients per year are they dealing with, do you think?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I don't have that data with me today, but I can certainly provide statistics that would help address that question that you've asked.
And just before I go to Mr. McGuire, we'll sort of keep a list of some things like that, and we'll send that to you. So at the end, so you don't have to write it all down, and then we'll just make sure that you have that list of the additional information that you've committed to. Mr. McGuire.
Is it fair to say they're busy?
No. Ms. Moore? Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we're busy. In terms of providing services for Nova Scotians, I think I just point out that in addition to our lawyers, we have social workers and that we refer to, and we have court support workers that work in our duty counsel offices, in our domestic violence courts, and in our Dartmouth Wellness Court. We have a social justice support worker that is just dedicated to Cape Breton. We have a prison law support worker, which is a brand new position that we obtained through funding through, I think, the Justice Partnership Innovation Program. It's a federally funded program. We have a child protection navigator. So to support the services that our lawyers provide, we have those additional service specialists that we think about that provide a more holistic wraparound service for clients. So we're busy, but we work really hard to track the caseloads of our staff and to ensure that they're healthy, manageable, and at the end of the day that they're serving the people that what we're all about is serving Nova Scotians.
MLA McGuire.
So what would happen to those clients, God forbid, if legal aid wasn't there?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. Many of the services that we provide would be a part of state-funded counsel. So you may have heard of Robotham orders or Robotham applications. Those are applications that an individual makes and the Attorney General responds to, and what they're asking for is for the province to fund their legal counsel. And we'll see that in child protection. So there's Supreme Court Canada decisions that speak to that need to have have counsel represent you in court, especially when it's the integrity of your family that's at stake. And we have that as well in criminal matters, particularly in serious criminal matters. You would see it in a range of criminal matters because there's liberty interest at stake. So if we didn't have legal aid, you would still be funding many of those individuals through the court system because they would be the subject of Robotham or other state-funded counsel applications.
MLA McGuire.
So it would actually be more expensive, more than likely, if it was funded that way. How important is equity and diversity when it comes to legal representation? And what I mean by that is when it comes to the African Nova Scotia community, when it comes to the Indigenous community, when it comes to new immigrants, how important is it for their legal representation to be able to understand, look, sound like them? How important is it for them to see themselves in the decision makers in the legal system? Yeah.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I think it's incredibly important. We embarked on a diversity, equity, and strategic plan in 2021. And that was a result of an audit that we had undertaken at the request of our Equity, Racial Diversity Committee. It's a really robust strategic plan because we need to, not only we need to represent the communities, the diversity of the communities we serve, and we need to represent also that in our workforce. We're probably a leader in that in terms of legal aid plans that has such a comprehensive strategy in place. Our commitment to it, to ensure its success, is that we applied for additional funding through the Law Foundation of Nova Scotia to provide the additional support to us to ensure the success of that plan. And we were successful. We revised in January of this year that we were successful with that Law Foundation Nova Scotia grant. It's the third grant opportunity that we've had through the Law Foundation because that's what's funded other important work like our African Nova Scotian social worker and our social justice support worker in Cape Breton. So it's incredibly important to reflect the people that we serve, and especially Indigenous and African Nova Scotian clients who are overrepresented in our criminal and child protection systems. We keep data on self-identification. We are continually working to improve that identification, but what that does show to us is where there is, in comparison to the population, overrepresentation in a certain area of law. So for example, in child protection, 20% of our child protection clients would be Indigenous. And so being able to have that strategic plan and have the services like our Indigenous social worker and our African Nova Scotian social worker just ensures we provide culturally relevant services to our clients and ensures that they also provide training to our staff.
Mr. McGuire.
So I don't know the next question. I don't know how you're going to answer it, but I think not everyone, but for certainly like growing up in the community that I grew up in, there's a lot of mistrust in the legal system, for sure. You know, still to this day, a lot of my close personal friends who are my age in their 40s still have a deep mistrust of the legal system. They have a deep mistrust of the justice system. And I think a part of that is I think a lot of people feel like they haven't been given proper legal representation, or they haven't had access to justice, I would say. So what do you feel are the determining factors of this mistrust in our legal system for some? And what are the determinant factors of the overrepresentation of the African Nova Scotian community? And I would also say there's probably a overrepresentation based on economics too when it comes to the legal system. So what do you feel is the determining factors?
Ms. Moore?
Well, thank you for the question. That's a very complex question that you've asked of me. That's not going to be quick to answer. When I was thinking about my own experience in representing clients, I was a family lawyer for 23 years, as well as a social justice lawyer. I had to work very hard to build trust with my clients, and that's what most of us with legal aid, we know that. We know that our clients are coming from, often are vulnerable and marginalized. They've faced discrimination and barriers throughout their life. They may have experienced and have experienced intergenerational trauma and other traumas of their own, and they come with complex issues. Many of our clients may struggle with mental health as well as addiction, housing insecurity, as well as income insecurity. So I can't answer the question in terms of all the determining factors, but I can say from a legal aid perspective, what we do is to ensure that we treat people with respect, meet them where they are. You talked about outreach. Why did we engage in outreach? It was so that we could meet people where they were, so that we could go to them and address the barriers that they often faced around transportation, taking time off work, even the stigma of coming into and finding our offices. So we found places to provide outreach where we could also be part of the community and we could develop the community trust and relationship. That's really critical part of outreach, is developing those community relationships and the trust so that clients can trust you. That's how we begin to address at least some of those harms. And we do a lot of, and that's where the wraparound services of our social workers and our child protection navigator, that's where they come in as well, to ensure that we're providing that holistic, client-centered, trauma-informed approach to practice.
1 minute, Mr. McGuire.
Is it fair to assume that poverty and non-stable housing can and does lead to overrepresentation in the legal system?
Ms. Moore.
I think what the research shows is that most of us are going to face a legal problem in our lifetime. 1 in 2. I think the study, some of the recent research is like 1 in 2 in the course of over a 3-year period are going to experience a legal problem. And if you don't address that legal problem, it often snowballs. And it can lead to other problems in your life that you have. And we know that when you're going through that,
Order. Time for Liberal questioning has elapsed. We will now move on to the NDP. MLA Coombs.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to finish up that thought, that'd be fine.
It leads to, we know it creates physical stress, financial stress.
Sorry, Ms. Moore?
Ms. Moore, sorry.
So that was my fault. I didn't recognize you. You didn't do anything wrong.
I'm a little bit distracted, I have to say, by the pounding.
It is a little distracting. It's like having a headache all day.
I'm trying to ignore it, yes. I have great empathy for all of you here who have to listen to it every day. The thought process with respect to legal problems, if they snowball, that's really what access to justice and is about, is addressing those everyday legal problems, because they do snowball and they do become greater issues. And we can see clients who started out with maybe an income security issue, they lost their job, that then impacts their ability to pay their rent and to pay their power. If you can't pay your rent and power, you're at risk of losing your housing. And then sometimes with families, that might lead you into the child protection system, for example, because that housing and income security leads you there. So legal aid plays a significant role in providing the legal advice, information, support, and representation to those clients. And we provide it across family, criminal, and social justice systems so that we're trying to provide as much legal service to people as we can. And that's where the idea of the investment of $1 in legal aid creates a social return of $6, because if you can help reduce eviction, you can also help when you're helping with income security. You can help someone get back into school. You can, help address maybe through a restorative process their criminal matter, and in family and child protection, you're looking at early resolution so that you can avoid a further court case.
MLA Coombs.
Thank you. And in Cape Breton, I know I am constantly referring people to Andy. We are keeping him hopping in matters regarding housing. And he did the outreach. He came to our office when he started, and we've been keeping him busy ever since. And so, with that said, in your annual report, it was indicated that housing-related matters were rising. And I'm assuming that does remain the case. And I just want to flag one quote from your social justice division that said, "The housing crisis has led to landlords persistently trying to evict the same marginalized tenants over and over again. Social justice is in part being dogged at holding the same landlords to account and in supporting clients in holding their ground. Would stronger legislation on evictions, fixed-term leases help reduce this caseload? And what about investments into affordable housing, do you think, from your perspectives?"
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. Very glad to hear that our social justice support worker is busy in Cape Breton. He's doing the work that we wanted him to do. We engage regularly in collaborations with residential tenancies, and we have that standalone social justice office, which has a law reform aspect to it as well, in addition to supporting the other offices across the province. Housing has been, for the last several years, the #1 issue for social justice and for clients who are coming in. So I think whenever you can make investments in affordable housing, it's going to benefit Nova Scotians. Steps that were recently taken with respect to the rent cap, those also have a benefit to Nova Scotians. I think the solutions around housing is complex. I think it's one of the greatest issues that we face, and it signifies to us why the work that we do in social justice is so important.
MLA Coombs.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to be kind of going all different directions here. You mentioned that Legal Aid's first Diversity, Equity, Inclusion strategic plan was approved in 2021. You've also just mentioned that you've received a grant on that. But now that we're 2 years into that plan, I'm wondering if you can provide an update and what are the remaining goals for in that strategic plan?
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. Some of the work that we've done with respect to that DEI strategy is increasing professional development. It's mandatory professional development that includes trauma-informed training, which is a key part also of the DEI training. We have our Indigenous Justice Initiative. That's an internal committee, as well as our Equity, Racial Diversity Committee. They work closely with the executive in implementing that strategic plan. Our social workers are a key component of the DEI strategic plan, and so and they provide service across the province. And the Indigenous Justice Social Workers for Child Protection specifically, and the African Nova Scotian Social Worker is for child protection, criminal, adult, and youth. We have developed a hiring strategy and mentoring programs to support clients that diverse staff that we hire. We're improving our self-identification. That's actually a key area. We've started a few years ago collecting self-identification of our clients, and we're continuing to improve that because it needs ongoing education of our staff as well. We've also begun collecting the self-identification of our staff to better support them, and so that's always continually a work in progress. We developed DEI onboarding documents and peer mentorship program. We've looked at the Land Titles Initiative was really a significant part of the work that we did. The diversity of our commission directors on our board, we look at that as well and to improve that. And even aesthetics in our office, which is, really is what you see when you come in through the front door. And we're looking at improving that and committing resources to making that space as inclusive and welcoming as you can. There's other significant elements to that strategic plan that we hope to accomplish over the next couple of years. I can certainly provide a copy of that strategic plan if the committee is interested, so that you can see what our goals are. It's quite. It would take too long to go through them all here this morning.
MLA Coombs.
That would be great. Thank you very much. I'd appreciate that. My colleague from Halifax Atlantic was had asked you some of these questions, but I kind of want to drill down a little bit more on them. And so I'm just wondering, we talked about approval ratings earlier for full service. I'm just wondering what is the current approval rate? What is the current approval rate for full service legal aid? And if you have it by subject area, even, that'd be great.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn to my notes to make sure that I So I think there were two aspects to that question, and I hope I remember them correctly. So we provide legal aid for family, criminal, and social justice. Our eligibility is if you are in receipt of income assistance, you will qualify for Nova Scotia legal aid. We then have what we call a eligibility table, and that's what guides us in determining when a person is in receipt of income, if they would still qualify for legal aid, meeting the undue hardship test, or being an equivalent to social assistance. So if you are a single person under our guidelines, you will make $1,067 gross a month is what would qualify for legal aid. If that's just an example of a single person. A family of one parent and two children, I think, would be 1407. I can't find the table in front of me right now. That table was probably designed in the early 80s when we looked back at it. It's our statute was enacted in 1977. In the mid-80s, we developed this table. Everyone uses that table. The courts use it for their waiver of fees. It's pretty well known, and it breaks it down between one adult right up to two adults with 6 children, 6 or more children. So when I talked about the policy, what we had created was if we said if you were 20% or more, like under, you automatically qualified. And then we looked at if you were 20 to 50% over, you could qualify you could also qualify for legal aid, and we'd be looking at what was the legal issue you were facing. We would look at what the cost of legal services would be privately if you had to retain it. It goes back to the point about state-funded counsel. I mean, it would be incredibly expensive and time-consuming for the system if every person had to make an application for state-funded counsel. So that's why there is a legal aid program. So for anyone that's 20 to 50% over, we could still qualify basing on those factors. And then if you're 50% or more over, we probably would look at a contribution agreement if we were qualifying you. Now, we don't qualify everybody that fits within that income category. About a little less than 5% of our applicants are rejected for legal aid, and probably 60% of those are for financial reasons. To my point, and if it's child protection, we will provide a more relaxed standard of eligibility because we understand what the issues are at stake.
Ms. Coombs, you have 8.5 minutes left.
Thank you. You answered I think you answered my question and a few more that I actually had to drill into, and I appreciate that immensely. So I want to make sure I'm getting something right here, and that is the table that was created and versus the policy that you have adopted. So the table, is that legislated in some way? And then is the policy adopted because that table was too outdated?
Ms. Moore.
I'm just trying to follow.
Thank you for the question. You know, eligibility, I could talk about it all day, actually, because I did quite a bit of work in relation to it and making and looking at modernizing our eligibility system. So our regulations allow for a lot of discretion. And as I said, it's the regulations that say equivalent to income assistance, you are on income assistance, or if you meet undue hardship test. The table is a matter of policy for us. You will not see it in our regulations. It's not statutorily mandated, but that is what we use to guide our determining eligibility for our clients. And you know, when you look at how many people we represent, it obviously has an impact on funding. So when we introduced the policy of 20% or more above in qualifying applicants so that we could serve more Nova Scotians, it did increase the number of people that we served across the board. It increased it in family, in criminal, less so for social justice because most of those clients really do not have very little income. We had a significant increase in our, for us, would be a significant increase in the people that we were serving. But you do reach a sort of max capacity in terms of how many people can you serve with the staffing that you have. And it wasn't a framework that was easily understood. So if someone asks us if they qualify for legal aid, they really have to come in because we're looking at your income, we're looking at your expenses, your assets, we're looking at the legal issue. It's a very complicated analysis, so it's not a quick yes or no answer. And so I can understand when that can be probably frustrating for people who are applying or someone who's coming to your office or someone's asking you, do I qualify for legal aid? Why don't I? And it is because we have the regulatory framework we have in effect. So in moving forward, why we wanted to move forward and have been advocating for a more modernized system is one that you could easily see whether you qualify or not, and that the eligibility criteria was clear. I think it is beneficial to not put all of that in the form of a regulation because you always need some flexibility, but tying our table to a low-income measure would serve more Nova Scotians. It's just that in the 80s when that table was drafted, if you were working a minimum wage job, you qualified for legal aid as a single individual because you were making probably $4 or $5 an hour, right? And now the minimum wage has significantly increased, so that as a single person, if you're working 25 hours, you're probably not going to qualify. And that is one of that, and the family, the young family or the family with one adult and two kids, we're looking at those individuals who may be working and who are low income that we want to serve.
Ms. Coombs, 5 minutes.
Thank you. With all that being said, and the table being created in the mid-1980s, do you think that the table itself needs to be updated?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. We have, the Commission actually has commissioned a report that we have recommended, we call it a modernization of the table to reflect current low-income measures. And that could be the market basket measure, it could be LIMAT, but one in which it's just more reflective of people's current circumstances and income.
MLA Coombs?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I'm just wondering, can you also describe the impact that the court backlog and judicial vacancies are having on legal aid as well as your clients that you serve?
Ms. Moore.
I wanted to confirm, I don't think I had actually said this, I don't know if I can do this or not, but if we reject your application, you have the right to appeal, and I didn't want to leave a misunderstanding with the committee that there is no other avenue for people who are rejected for legal aid. With respect to the backlog, probably the pandemic, we've been tracking what the impact of the pandemic has been on Nova Scotia legal aid and our staffing, and you'll see some of that in our file analysis that we did in our annual report. So although we did see a slight decrease in applications for legal aid during the course of the pandemic, that was understandable. What we also saw was a decrease in the matters completed. So it meant that because courts for a period of time were closed, because matters had to be adjourned, it took longer for matters to work their way through the court, and so it takes longer to close a file. I think those are all reasonable expectations of what happened during the course of the pandemic, and we're now coming out the other side of it. And we work, Legal Aid is part of a few different tables in which we're trying to address the backlog issue. That's part of the work of the Criminal Justice Transformation Group. There is another provincial court Crown Defense Committee in which we try to find some practical solutions to those backlog issues. In family court and child protection, it just continued on through. There was less of an issue around backlog, and it's less of an issue with respect to family matters. It is really more of an issue in the criminal courts. It's probably added to the file time for our lawyers in the sense that you're keeping a file longer for a longer period of time, and so there's probably more court dates. Those adjournments that were related to COVID, they have an impact because you get ready, and then you have to stop, you have to wait for the trial to be set over, and then you have to start again.
Ms. Coombs, minute and a half.
Thank you. As you mentioned with caseloads and that, I'm just wondering, and you've obviously mentioned that you're very busy, so I'm just wondering what is needed to address the caseload management and make it more manageable, in your opinion?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. Some of our duty counsel services do help with the caseload backlog and efficiencies in the court system. So our summary advice counsel in the family court, they saw 2,606 people in 2021. Although many of them were self-represented litigants who would not qualify for legal aid, that it certainly does help the backlog in the family court when you have people who are self-represented, who have legal advice and information and kind of armed with the tools to represent themselves in court. They would also necessity probably seen some of our potential clients who hadn't yet had an appointment with legal aid. And the same with our duty counsel services in criminal court ourselves and non-custodial. So they also serve that same function, especially because there's no financial qualification. It's providing representation to everyone who's before that court. So that has a way of impacting, creating efficiencies in the system and supporting our lawyers as well as the system overall.
The time for NDP questioning has elapsed. We'll now move on to the PC Caucus. MLA Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions around the strategic plan. And we're coming into the final year of your 6-year strategic plan. And one of the goals is to ensure that programs are efficiently delivered. Like you mentioned, technology, using more support staff efficiently, among some other things. Can you give us an update on the progress that you've made towards achieving your goals?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I'm just thinking, the steps that we've taken to achieve our strategic plan in terms of it's a big question, actually, so I'm thinking about what we've done. We use technology. So what particularly set us up well for the pandemic was we used technology in terms of developing online applications, ease of access to legal aid. We used technology through Microsoft and Teams so that we really allows us to have a remote and flexible workforce. It allowed us to participate in court virtually. When the pandemic came, we actually were well suited. We had just transitioned. We didn't know what was going to be coming for us, but we were able to transition quite well. And we've also used that to be able to meet with clients remotely. So they don't have to travel to our offices. And also we use that same type technology to meet with our clients who are incarcerated. So technology has been a huge piece of that strategic plan that we've worked towards so that we have the tech support in the office in terms of the screens, the audio, the cameras, the laptops to enable our lawyers to work from anywhere. And that's been a game changer. So, for example, in the Northeast Corridor, we had a lack of private lawyers taking criminal certificates. We were able to have a lawyer join that firm who lives in Windsor, works in the Northeast Corridor. He doesn't have to be in that office every day. Because of technology, he's able to service his clients and serve in those courts. We, in terms of creating a strong workforce, we hired an HR specialist that and focused on our HR development, and professional development training for our staff. That included the trauma-informed and mandatory cultural proficiency training to meet our DEI needs. We looked at using non-lawyer staff, so that's our social justice support worker, our court support workers, our social workers. They kind of fulfill multiple purposes. So in aspects of the strategic plan, because around the DEI, wraparound services for clients, connecting them to resources in the community, helping them to develop case plans, and actually strengthening the relationship between the client and the lawyer as well. We've done a lot of innovation. So we created the Child Protection Practice Group. That was really focused on early prevention, early preventative measures. So the Child Protection Practice Group is an example of that. Our commitment to restorative justice. We set a number of restorative justice committees and are strong advocates for that in the justice system. The social justice support worker was another innovation of using non-lawyer staff. We've created standalone offices, which is another part of the strategic plan, which is strengthening services like mental health, legal services. We have a standalone office, and that supports the entire province. Lawyers that are in Dartmouth that support offices, support mental health legal services across the province. Our social justice is a standalone office. We created an appeals office for family and criminal appeals, so we have specialized expert resources to do that work. We have a youth office, and then, of course, we were involved in the Land Titles Initiative, so that was a significant part of our strategic plan. And we've been able to do all of this while continuing to operate in a fiscally sound and accountable manner. So we've stayed within budget in order to achieve all of those goals.
Emily.
Thank you. I think you kind of touched on my next question as well. I'll have one more, I suppose. Your strategic plan has a goal that Nova Scotians have improved access to justice. Can you discuss how, through the work of the Commission, we are seeing improved access to justice for Nova Scotians? Perhaps you touched on that a little too.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. I think I'd just start with what does access to justice mean first, so that indicate what we've done to achieve that goal. So meaningful access to justice focuses on people and their ability to access information, institutions, and organizations to understand, resolve, and prevent legal problems. So everything that we do is access to justice. Our commitment to our social justice and mental health services really helps to improve outcomes by reducing evictions, ensuring income security, connecting with mental health services and community resources. So it just, again, everything we do is access to justice. And some of those examples are our Summary Advice Council, our Criminal Duty Council. And Criminal Duty Council is cells, non-custodial, and 24-hour telephone duty counsel. That's available to anybody who's been arrested or detained. And it's free and immediate legal advice. Our standalone offices, which I referred to, and our services like our prison law support worker, child protection group, social workers, and we have an online chat. That's for family and social justice matters. So once a week between 3 and 5 on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, if you go on our website, you click a little icon, you're going to talk in real time with a lawyer who's going to give you some legal information and navigation about whatever legal issue you have. And that is a really easy way to kind of extend access to justice to more people.
Emily Young.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Moore. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Mr. White.
Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you've already talked a little bit about marginalised communities such as African, Nova Scotian and Indigenous communities, but since they're so disproportionately represented in the justice system, I want to give you the opportunity to speak a little more on how legal aid supports them in a culturally responsive way.
Ms. Moore?
I will say a couple of our social workers has probably been one of the most important things that we've done, because they assist us in ensuring that we provide a culturally responsive service to Indigenous and African Nova Scotian clients. They have both workers have very close connections to community. They serve on numerous committees. Our African Nova Scotian social worker was on the subcommittee of the Criminal Justice Transformation Group. They provide training and resources to our staff, and they enable our clients to, they can help explain to them what's going on in court. They support them. They help them in case planning. So it's a significant service that they provide to our clients that is unique in providing really a wraparound service. The work that we did with Land Titles Initiative, we were very honored to be part of that work, and that was historic in addressing historic wrongs and ensuring clear title to African Nova Scotians in the 5 communities that we provided service in. The IRCAs is another area I think I probably want to highlight, because those are the impact, race, and cultural assessments, and that's a form of impact litigation that we funded. And early on, it was our legal aid lawyers who first identified that the importance of using those assessments in court. We funded the experts in order to provide those reports, and just in understanding what an IRCA is, it provides information to the court about the history, context, barriers, and systemic racism that an individual's faced, and it's a tool that the judge can use in arriving at an appropriate sentence. And those first cases were all legal aid lawyers who were advancing that work, and not only did we advance the work, but we supported the professional development of our colleagues and others and the importance of those assessments. We identified it early on that this was something the court itself should be ordering and doing, rather than the legal aid plan deciding how its resources would be best used, is that all African Nova Scotians in that criminal justice system should have access to an IRCA. And it's had an impact, because on the national stage, our advocacy, along with some of the work in Ontario, has led to the federal government funding those across the country. And that's a significant example of the work that we can do as a legal aid plan to address those historic wrongs in communities.
Mr. White, you have just over 9 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. And closely related again, can you tell us a little bit about how the Commission works to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I'd say that the DEI strategic plan is a good example of that. The commitment to professional development training that's culturally proficient. It will again be in our new strategic plan as our commitment to providing cultural proficient services. Maintaining the staffing that we have of our social workers is a key part of it. Engagement in communities and collaboration with communities is a key part to fulfilling those DEI goals.
MLA White?
And finally for me, it's good to see that you have offices all over the province. That's great to see. But that brings to attention that there's differences in rural and urban areas. So I'm wondering if you're seeing any difference in the caseload, if there's differences in what you're representing, what people are in need, and if so, if you could tell us a little bit of how you're addressing those needs. Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I would say that the need for family, criminal, and social justice does not change whether you're in a rural or urban community, but there are extra barriers in rural communities accessing services, transportation issues, fewer private bar to take certificates is another pressure that's in rural communities. So we have our offices that provide full service to clients who qualify, but if we have a client who qualifies but is a conflict, we need to rely on the private bar to take a certificate, and that can be more of a challenge in rural areas. So we've had to create conflict offices from time to time to address that. That's been one of our responses to trying to address that gap. And so in Cape Breton, for example, we have a conflict office for family and child protection. And the Northeast Corridor in the mainland is another example of a conflict office. And during the pandemic, we probably saw our clients, they really struggled. So we saw more insecurely housed clients, more people struggling with employment-related issues, and that would probably be something that not all of the rural offices had seen as much, but saw more of. And so offices like Antigonish and that, they would have seen, they saw an increase in those issues for them and what the challenges their clients were facing. What we've tried to do is to use technology to reduce the impact of those barriers. And so we use virtual phone meetings and appointments, online applications. We do summary advice by phone as well as in person to help reduce the challenges people face.
MLA White?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Emily McDonald.
Emily McDonald. 7 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was fortunate enough that I represent an area that has a huge First Nations, which is Sabaganaganey in Hants East, and the Crown Prosecutor actually had me show up at arraignment day, which I will tell you is interesting to sit there and go through and the stuff into it. And I know they're looking at a wellness, trying to get it done there. And I know in 2002, just recently, Dartmouth had added a wellness court for theirs. And can you help explain how legal aid fits into that and how that process is working?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I'm just going to turn to my notes on our mental wellness courts.
Minutes. 14.
Okay. No, my tabs are different. So we have, I'm just going to start speaking. We have wellness courts. The first wellness court was in Dartmouth. We started that in 2014. And we've expanded. I think there's 9 regions now in the province that have wellness courts. That's what I was looking for to make sure I did not have my numbers wrong. There's a wellness court in Wagmacook, so we were involved in the development of that, and our Indigenous social worker attends there. We have wellness courts in Bridgewater, Amherst. Truro has a wellness court. All of those wellness courts have developed because of a commitment by Legal Aid and Crown and the court that those avenues are available to Nova Scotians. The Dartmouth Wellness Court is a real success story because of the way in which it started. We have a dedicated lawyer in that court, and she's been there since the beginning. When it first started, it was a drug treatment court and a mental health court. And the drug treatment court was exclusive to clients with addictions to opiates. And it was in partnership with Nova Scotia Health at the time opiate treatment program. And over time, they recognized they needed to expand to more Nova Scotians. And then the first expansion was to include an alcohol pilot project. And then in 2022, it expanded into a substance use disorder program. So that's SUD. And it's one of 2 programs in Dartmouth, the other one being the mental health program. And that allows clients with substance use disorders related to their offenses to make application. And it is expanded to many clients with complex polysubstance use disorders who can be supported by the SUD program. So it's an opportunity to change their future. It comes with a lot of work and commitment, and many people are not yet ready to proceed through those programs, and that does happen, but for the ones that do, it's life-changing, and it really does reduce the rate of recidivism, if I can get that word out right. Yes, yeah. So, and in recognition of how important mental health legal services are, it affects our family, our social justice clients, everyone. We created that standalone office. So it now is 3 lawyers, a court support worker, and a legal assistant, and they're supporting, they do all of our IPTA hearings. That's the Involuntary Psychiatric Treatment Act. So Legal Aid does all of those hearings. We do the Criminal Code Review Board. Legal Aid does principally all those hearings, and that office covers that, as well as the Dartmouth Wellness Court. And we started a pilot project with our Cells Duty Council, so that if in cells they identify a client with complex needs, mental health, substance abuse issues, they'll contact the managing lawyer of the mental health legal services office and see if they can fast track the application to them. Because the sooner we can get people into the right stream and get them into wellness court, the better the outcomes for them can be. So.
Okay, so we have a minute and a half left. Mr. McDonald.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll ask you quick.
There will also be 14 minutes in the next round. So
Perfect, thank you. So you mentioned something in there about Polly something I lost.
Oh,
could you explain what it is? And she'll acknowledge you, so it's on the record. She's going to answer questions.
Ms. Moore.
It just means multiple substances. So people have an addiction to more than one substance, and it really is just a way in which you can expand the services that, the opportunities for people to participate in that program.
Mr. McDonald.
I'll let you go to the next round as opposed to asking a question that won't be answered. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So now we will go back to the Liberal caucus. Mr. McGuire, you have 14 minutes.
I just want to touch on certificates, and we know what certificates are for. Obviously, it's for, they can find other outside legal representation outside of Nova Scotia Legal Aid and present those certificates to private law firms for legal representation. What I'm hearing more and more from law firms and lawyers is that they're turning down the certificates, and the reason they're turning these certificates down is because the amount of work that goes into representing an individual compared to the compensation that the certificates give them just doesn't match up. So in some cases they're using solicitors fresh out of university or fresh out of graduation, little to no experience maybe. Not to say that they're bad legal representation, but we know experience can go a long way too. But a lot of private law firms now just won't accept certificates. We know that. Is the compensation, first of all, when is the last time the amount for the certificate, when is the last time that went up? We do know that in question period, we have asked the Minister of Justice questions around the certificates and if they had any plans on increasing the amount. The answer was not at this time. Is the amount given, in your opinion, enough to entice private solicitors to represent individuals? I mean, the answer, I mean, I don't know what your answer is going to be, but we know that from most people in private industry, they're telling us no. So a whole bunch of loaded questions there for you.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. I'll try to answer them in order if I can. The first question that I heard was, when have they last changed? So just to explain, if you are under 5 years at the bar, you receive $70 an hour. If you're 5 years or more, it's $80 an hour. And for homicide matters, for example, it would be $95 an hour, and you have to have 10 years experience. They were last increased in 2014. So in 2020, we did a survey of the private bar. and asked for their feedback on a whole range of issues related to our certificate system. And the greatest pressures that they identified were the hourly rate and the hours given to matters.
Madam Chair, can I need
Mr. McGuire?
clarification. So I just want to be clear here, like you gave an hourly rate, but that's not an unlimited amount of hours, right? There's a lump sum that certificates, and that's what it's supposed to work out to per hour. But we do know in, for example, a homicide case, and some of these, actually any case, what we're hearing from private industry is what you just said, which is the amount of hours that's being put in, the certificates aren't covering the amount of time that is actually needed to go from start to finish. So while I appreciate that we're saying $70 to $90 an hour, what's happening is a lot of solicitors are going past the amount of hours they're paid for because they feel a duty to continue to represent those clients, and they're working for free. And he won't mind me saying it, but I'm talking firsthand because my brother-in-law, who is a senior partner at Weldon McGuinness, has taken lots of these certificates in the past, and he said the hours are about 200% more than what you're being paid for, so you're spending a lot of time volunteering.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. I think there's an element of pro bono work in any private bar lawyer that takes a legal aid certificate. But to answer your question, under our hourly rate and the hours given for preparation, because you get all of your court time is paid for, but there is set by tariff an upper limit on hours. Private bar lawyers have the opportunity to make a request to us to have hours over and above what the tariff allots, and we will, especially where it's warranted, extend those hours on a certificate. When you have complex criminal matters like a historical sexual assault, the hours under the tariff are not going to be adequate, and so often we would approve additional hours. They have to make the request for that approval. But it has been identified that the rate and the tariff hours do need to be updated because matters are increasingly complex, and looking at our average file times, we know that they've increased for family and criminal and child protection. We've taken a number of steps, though, to support the private bar. So they have access to all of our professional development free. They have access to our legal researcher. We have streamlined our certificate invoicing system to use more easy-to-use fillable forms. We're working towards direct deposit. We're trying to do a number of things that we can that don't really have a cost but do support them in providing service. But our rates are probably one of the lowest legal aid rates in the country when it comes to the tariff, and all legal aid plans are always in reviewing their hourly rate. So I did want to speak, though, to one issue about experience. We have certificate standards, so any lawyer who takes a certificate from us has to meet our certificate standards that are in our tariff, and depending on the complexity of the matter, they have to have a certain number of years' experience in that area of law in order to take the certificate. And we would never give a complex matter to a private bar lawyer without also providing them with, especially in a homicide, there's often a second counsel involved, junior counsel, or a staff lawyer involved to assist on the file. So I didn't want to have the perception that we would give complex files to new lawyers. Most of our lawyers are probably in the first of 5 years, and we lose a lot of private bar lawyers between 5 and 10 years, and a lot of our senior lawyers are retiring and are not necessarily being replaced. So in 2014, our pool of private bar was about 300, and now it's 213. It's not increasing. And the rural parts of the province, that was a question I was asked earlier about the differences. Rural parts of the province, just the bar in general, they're struggling, like in having people moving to rural areas to take up a practice, and we feel it too, and it's mostly the small and solo firms, sole practitioners and small firms who do our certificate work. Big firms do not do our certificate work. Generally, it would be the small, single, sole practitioner, small firm, sometimes a medium-sized firm will do it, and you don't see those in the rural areas. So it's a real access to justice issue.
Mr. McGuire, you have just over 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, so what I'm hearing is that what you said was the majority. So you've essentially lost a third of your private sector lawyers. You've gone from 300 to 213, and so that is not. I mean, there's a fundamental issue here where. The legal representation is decreasing. And we're hearing more and more of individuals who are, I know we're dealing with more and more people that are representing themselves in court. The pro bono stuff, while I appreciate it, I don't think there's any other profession where we expect people to do pro bono. Like, I know if a plumber came into my house tomorrow and I asked he or her to fix something, and they said, well, we're going to have it done in 3 hours. And I said, well, anything over 3 hours is going to be pro bono. I think they would definitely leave. I don't think there's any other profession where we expect pro bono, and I think it's art. Yeah, art, maybe art. But I think it's a strange concept that there is an issue here. There's an issue that a third of the private sector lawyers are no longer taking it. After you hit the 5-year range, you're seeing less and less experienced lawyers are not taking that, and there's an issue there, because it's as competent as you can be from 1 to 5 years. There's also an experience thing. I think there's a difference between someone like Joel Pink, who's been around since the beginning of time, who's seen everything under the sun, and somebody who is a year or two in, right? So, and I'm not trying to dismiss the ability of individuals, but experience goes a long way. Relationships go a long way, and so how do we fix that? How do we fix, obviously, once. Again, I talk from my own personal experience that 1 to 5 years is when you start to build your own clientele and you build your firm up, and then you kind of, are a little more established. So what sounds like to me is that once lawyers are established, they're no longer taking on certificates. And I know this isn't on legal aid. Would increasing the amount we're paying and encapsulating the scope of these things. So instead of saying like there's only so many hours, would that help us with replacing the third of lawyers we've lost over the last 10 years and bringing some of those more experienced lawyers back into the fold to help with some of these? I mean, these cases are complicated. We see it all the time. So is it a matter of like financial compensation?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. In 2020, when I said we did the survey, we actually wrote a report. So there is a commission report on investing in the private bar tariff system. It's called Investing in Justice: Recommendations to Change to the Private Lawyer Tariff System, and it certainly was provided to government, I think, in 2021, if my recollection is correct. And we advocated for an increase in expenditure in the increasing the hourly rate for tariffs, and we recommended an increase in some of the legal matters in terms of the preparation time. So recognizing that that's what the private bar said to us. is that the hourly rate and the preparation hours are barriers to them in continuing to do that work. And because we haven't had an increase in a significant period of time, that was not surprising that they made that statement. So we've certainly been advocating for that, and the private bar plays a critical role along with legal aid in safeguarding, the interests of Nova Scotians. They take on some of the difficult cases for us as well. They're involved in the child protection and the senior criminal complex matters. So. And we've been working with government since then and advocating for an increase to those rates, explaining where our calculations come from, where our math comes from, and we've been looking at other legal aid plans across the country as a guide and reference as to where should we be as a plan.
Mr. McGuire, you have 10 seconds.
Just basically thank you for everything. Thank you for all the support you put in our communities.
And we will now move on to the NDP Caucus for questioning. MLA LeBlanc.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and hello, and I'm sorry I was late. I'm the MLA for Dartmouth North, where there are many people that use Nova Scotia Legal Aid and also Dalhousie Legal Aid services. So I just want to ask a couple of questions, and I apologize because I didn't hear your opening comments, but I just want to clarify a number that I think my colleague was helping me with. But is it correct to say that in terms of people who apply for help from Nova Scotia Legal Aid and those who receive it, that 60% of those people who are rejected, it's because their income is over the 50% threshold? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. I'm just going to go back to our 2021 report because I have some data with respect to that to make sure my numbers are correct. So if we were to use the snapshot of 2019, 2021-22, 4.7% of our applications for legal aid were rejected.
4.7?
Yeah. So that's like 1,945 people. They're not only rejected just for financial, they can be rejected because of merit or outside scope. It's not a legal service that we provide. If you looked at, and I'm going to use our 2019 year just because that's the chart in front of me, 50.7% of our total full service files opened had no income, 49.3% had some income. When we broke it down as to how many clients exceeded our guideline table that I spoke about earlier, 8.4% had income that was 80% and more and above. 6.3% had income between 50 to 79%, and 8.6% had 20 to 49% above. And when looking at our rejections and our total rejections, 60.9% of the rejections were for financial reasons. And of that, what I can say is that the bulk of them had income, 42.8% had 80% and above, and the rest fit within that 20 to 79%.
MLA LeBlanc.
Yeah, well, just doing some quick calculations, and math is not my forte, but it seems to me that's not hard to do. It's not hard to have more than 80%. If the threshold for a single person is $1,067 a month, then 80% of that is like $1,900, somewhere in there, right? $1,800. And so when we look at the rising cost of rent, the rising cost of food, like that's basically there's no money for legal services if you don't qualify for legal aid there. So it makes me. And I'm asking this because there are people who come to my office who say, yeah, we don't qualify, so we don't have any help. And then I'm running around trying to see if there's any lawyer in the world that will take them on. So yeah, it just seems to me that it's like a number one issue is funding and changing that metric. So I guess my question around that is, we're looking at the budget right now. How does Nova Scotia Legal Aid present budget requests to the province? Like, do you make a submission? Do you meet with the minister? Do you meet with the CFO of the Department of Justice? And is there an increase in your budget this year? And then and if not, like, how have you been advocating for much more money? I guess that's where I'll start. Yeah.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. I will maybe split, if I can, split this question between myself and our Director of Finance, Ms. Cain. I do want to speak to one issue as it relates to financial eligibility. So we did create a paper, as I indicated, and we have been working with government. That report was done in 2018, or early 2019. And we've been looking on the costing with respect to that. The federal government allotted an additional federal spend, which was approved in yesterday's budget, I believe, that was for legal aid plans. Our share of that federal spend, part of it has been allotted to do a financial eligibility intake pilot, and it is to trial in what we're hoping to do in a region of the province, an updated eligibility framework, so that we can look at how many more people will that actually help and serve, and what would be the impact to increase in services, what would be the impact to our staffing and capacity to provide that service, and would there be a cost implication to it. It's fairly difficult, I will say, to cost out what it means to increase eligibility thresholds, because you have to factor in the demographics, the population, who's actually going to need the legal services. So it's a bit challenging to do. That is one of the steps that we're taking to move that particular needle forward. And then I will say that because we know that there's a large number of self-represented litigants, that's where our summary advice services and our duty counsel are so critical, because there's a certain percentage of self-represented litigants who will never have counsel. They either won't qualify for legal aid, they won't hire private counsel, they'll never have counsel. And the fact that we provide free legal services to anyone in both criminal and family courts, this is significant, because not even all legal aid plans do that without financial qualification, and we do. Now I'll turn the second half of the question, if I may, to Ms. Cain to answer in terms of our budgeting process.
Ms. Cain.
Thank you for the question. So annually, we work with the Department of Justice. We present our budget pressures in November. So one of the projects that Charlene alluded to was coming from federal increased funding. It is difficult to know the one-time funding that the federal government is going to put forward, and obviously that just was approved yesterday as part of the federal government. So it's timely, and we have been fortunate to have been funded well by the province of Nova Scotia for the last several years. They do flow through the increased federal funding to us. So last week when the budget was tabled, there is an increase for legal aid. I think it amounts to 3.5%. It covers wage claims, and it does cover some increased federal investment that will be coming to the province.
Emily LeBlanc, 5 minutes.
And does it reflect what you asked for?
Ms. Cain.
Thank you for the question. It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, it doesn't cover all the budget pressures that we've been discussing with government, but we are still going through points with Department of Justice. There are some pressures that were put forward that the Department of Justice has funded from within their own budget over the last couple of years. Our Child Protection Practice Group, our
African Nova Scotian.
African Nova Scotian social worker, and the social justice support worker in Cape Breton that we spoke about earlier. Those have all been funded from the Department of Justice's department budget. So we are still having discussions with them.
Emily LeBlanc.
Thanks. I want to go back to the certificate question that my colleague was asking. Is there, is there something in place when a client takes, gets matched with a certificate lawyer, where the lawyer, where is there protections in place for the client? So I know of a case where someone in my community, from her point of view, kept being dropped by her certificate lawyer, and then they'd say, well, actually I can't take this on anymore, and so she'd get a new certificate lawyer, and they'd say, well, and they take it on, she'd do the whole intake with them, and they would go maybe one more step, and then they'd be like, I can't take this on anymore, and lawyer after lawyer. And so I'm just wondering, if are there standards in place for that kind of situation? How does the client get protected when when going through the certificate process through legal aid that's funded through legal aid?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you for the question. Sometimes it can be challenging in developing solicitor-client relationships, whether you are paying for your lawyer yourself or if it's publicly funded. We provide clients, they're provided with a certificate list of counsel, so we don't choose them for them. We often leave that we will assist clients in finding counsel if they ask, but we'll also leave them the choice to find a counsel that they can develop a good relationship with. Sometimes it can be challenging. I can't speak to that particular circumstance, but if a client had, in practice, if they had a concern about their certificate lawyer, they could approach the office out of which the certificate issued, speak to the managing lawyer, address their concerns, try to have those concerns addressed. If a client, one of the things that we can do is issue a new certificate and to a different lawyer with the full same prep hours. They kind of start from scratch, fresh in terms of the hours, and that's a benefit to them. But those are our mechanisms. And if it isn't addressed in our regional office, and it makes its way up to our executive office, to one of our directors who will look and see what are the issues at play there so that we can support our clients. And we try to connect them. If, for example, it's an Indigenous or African Nova Scotian client, we'll bring in our social workers and connect them with the client and see if that's going to assist in helping to improve that relationship.
Emily LeBlanc?
Great, that's a nice segue to my next question. Actually, we were talking earlier about African, Nova Scotian, and Indigenous folks being overrepresented in the justice system, and you've talked a little bit about some of the, changes that have been put in place. But I'm wondering if legal aid ever has anything to do with sort of more upstream, sort of thinking around that overrepresentation in the justice system. Is there a place for legal aid in getting people to avoid the justice system altogether? I mean, that's a big question. And I guess the other part of that is, B part is, we're talking a lot about housing right now. We know we have a massive housing crisis, and I'm wondering if you are seeing, or if your folks are seeing, a correlation between people entering the justice system and their lack of appropriate housing.
Ms. Moore?
To the first question, it's a fairly strong commitment, even in our strategic plan, that if we can work with people at the earliest opportunity, the earlier the better, preventative, early resolutions. Restorative justice is an example of non-traditional court processes to resolve criminal matters. Our child protection practice group is probably the best example I can say of supporting families who find themselves connected to child protective services and trying to provide them the information, navigation, and support they need so that they can understand why they're involved, why the agency is involved in their life. We can provide them with the tools, resources, connection, and they can make good decisions about what it is that they need to do to address the issue. If they need advocacy, we're also there to provide the advocacy that they may need as they're working with the social worker. It's a very collaborative approach. It's preventative and it's focused on early resolution. And we meant it to also work with those overrepresented populations. And so we did a significant amount of outreach to.
Time for the NDP questioning has elapsed. We'll now move on to the PC caucus and back to MLA McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you almost finished, or do you need another minute to finish that?
If I could just say,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I'll let her finish, Madam Chair.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
I do.
The Child Protection Practice Group, part of it is that it was also working with Indigenous and African Nova Scotian communities because those are the communities overrepresented. They are very strongly connected with our social workers, and a lot of the outreach that we did with that in Dartmouth has been with the East Preston, North Preston communities as well as working with the Friendship Center and losing my train of thought, but it's that really does help to address those issues, and that's the kind of early preventative work that we believe in, we're strongly committed to, and any time we have an opportunity to collaborate, we will do so with respect to that.
Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and don't feel bad. We all do it while talking, realize the mic's not on. So I'm not sure who's going to answer this one, but on your website, there's been accountability reports from 2016 to 2020, and they seem to have stopped. So I'm just wondering, are they still, is there a reason why they're stopped, or are they in a different report that's being published?
Ms. Moore.
Thank you. I can answer that question. We are legislatively required to prepare an annual report, and at the request of government, we've been asked to provide business plans, which we put on our website because we're an independent commission. In 2016, we were asked to provide an accountability report, and so you'll see those years we did provide it. We did not receive the request in the last 2 years. So in preparation for this committee meeting, we actually reached out to government to say, do you want us to continue to provide the accountability reports? It's the only reason that they're not there. If the response is that they wish us to, then we will provide them, and we'll provide the previous years as well.
Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just one last question. So I think everybody will agree that legal aid is an extremely important service. So how does Nova Scotia gauge against other provinces on their services and that?
Ms. Moore?
I think we hold up really well. I'm very proud of the work that our lawyers do and our staff do, and our non-lawyer staff as well. We are able to provide a full range of service in family and criminal. Not all plans are able to do that. We provide social justice services. Not all plans are able to provide social justice services. And in 2020, that actually became a key part of our, in our legislation. It actually gave us that legislative authority to provide the social justice and administrative law work that we were always doing a little bit of, but enabled us to say this is part of our core service. So I think those are significant. We have social workers. That's a fairly unique service that we provide as compared to other legal aid plans. It's all relative because the plans are different across the province. The funding is different, the needs are different, and so we're not always like apples and apples, but I think we stand up quite well.
Mr. McDonald, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, I have one supplemental, then I'll defer my time. Can you tell me, how does the legal aid federal, provincial, territory table share insights and best practices?
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. It's a great opportunity for the plans as well as the provincial partners to share best practices, challenges. They have a series of conferences that starts in the fall and that really talks about issues that are affecting legal aid plans everywhere. So Nova Scotia Legal Aid, we were actually presenters at several of those tables. So we had presentations on and on the work of IRCAs and the role that the African Nova Scotian Justice Institute is playing in that, and we are partnering with them and developing protocols for the IRCA assessments. We spoke about our mental health legal aid legal services and the importance of wellness courts and the work that we were doing in that regard, and we shared it along with other plans that were doing similar work. And we also talked about the challenges that all of us face on recruitment, retention, and wellness. And so we had our director and HR specialist participate in that panel along with Saskatchewan and I think Ontario to talk about what are we trying to do to increase retention, improve recruitment, and obviously increase the wellness of our staff. So they are a great opportunity. It's free. They've done everything virtually, and that is also the avenue in which you advocate for more funding for legal aid.
So we're now going to move over to our colleague, MLA Sheehy Richard, who has 8 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted, you touched in on a question that I had a few here, but about the wellness aspect, and it was a goal that was in your strategic plan, that staff do have necessary support for their work. And the report discussed matters like the professional development and the health and wellness of staff. So I guess in general, can you talk about how the Commission has been working to ensure that your staff is well supported through these challenging times?
Ms. Moore.
Thank you for the question. Some of the work we've done is the monitoring we do of offices to ensure there's appropriate staffing levels. So we use the data that we collect through our case management system that helps us statistically look at what is the staffing needs in each office and are they being met. We look at file numbers and file time and file distribution to ensure healthy caseloads. We continue to collect data on wait times and accessing legal aid services and seeking and monitoring our staffing levels through that way. Our professional development of our lawyers and staff, we do a lot of professional development, and we did a lot during the pandemic, in particular through Teams, like a virtual format. So we've done a lot of trauma-informed training. We've had Myrna McCallum speak to our staff. We had Salvatore Avalise, an inspector with Sheriff Services, who talked about the impact of secondary trauma. We've had Wendy McCallum talk about burnout to balance, and we had Howard Hurwitz come from Ontario to talk about effective strategies in working with high conflict clients. It's just an example of some of the PD that we provide. We have mental health first aid training. Our Indigenous social workers trained in providing mental health first aid, and it's a commitment of ours to provide that to all of our staff. We have also provided, during the pandemic, when we knew it was challenging for people working from home and feeling isolated, we had wellness sessions that we provided by Teams, and both of our social workers led those wellness sessions for our staff. We have a wellness fund that each office can access. It's a small amount of money, but it's an opportunity for them to do something as a group, and it improves wellness for everyone. And our staff work really hard, so we're actually always encouraging them to use it when they're not using it. I'd say also in having an HR person, we've been able to really help us in improving that recruitment, retention, and wellness aspect as well, and sort of having that specialty that we didn't have before. So I think we first hired in 2019? Yeah, 2019. That was the first time we had an HR person working with us.
Ms. Sheehy Richard, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I want to go back to, and the early intervention and the restorative justice is just such a good tool that you have in your toolbox, and that again was in your 2022-23 business plan, because it can seek to reduce the strain on the courts, the social systems, and clients overall. So can you go into a bit more, I know you touched on it earlier, but a little bit deeper discussion, I guess, on progress that the Commission has made on moving towards this, like towards the goal to date?
Ms. Moore?
Sir, on the restorative justice side, we sit at the Restorative Justice Committee table, so that's a kind of a high-level table, and they had a restorative conference here in the fall. We've actually even utilized restorative processes in dealing with HR issues within our organization. And I sit on the restorative, ramp, which is dealing with multiple proceedings. And so it's a restorative process looking at how can you support families who are in multiple proceedings at the same time in provincial family court, child protection, and specifically looking at files where there's domestic and violence involved. And so that's taking a restorative approach to it. And our commitment in being involved in other collaborations whenever we have the opportunity to do so. And that child protection group. And I just wanted to say is that we received that, the whole purpose of that group of lawyers is to work with families at the earliest opportunity. It means they get referrals from the community. They may have referrals from social workers. And because of the success of that in terms of working with families at the earliest stage and also working with families at the interim hearing stage, and it improves the efficiency within the court system. It reduces the number of court appearances. It has an impact for Department of Community Services as well and Department of Justice, because it's their resources as well that are saved when we can support families earlier. And that led to a collaboration of the judiciary with Department of Community Services, Department of Justice, and Legal Aid to do the judicial pre-court-led conferencing, which is a phenomenal example of restorative processes. Because if you have a family that is headed towards court under a supervision order, and you can have a judge meet with that family before the application has started and work out a case plan that's going to address all the concerns, support that family, and alleviate the need for a court application. You've saved not just the time and money, but you've saved the emotional cost to that family. So I always highlight that one because it's probably, I think, one of the greatest examples of going upstream.
Ms. Sheehy Richard.
Thank you. How much time, Madam Chair?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. No, it just warms my heart. I actually, prior, many moons ago, but I was a legal assistant, paralegal, and worked in some of the firms that did child protection, and also under, smaller firms that took the certificates and did some of these referrals. So it's kind of exciting to go way back in time and talk about some of these initiatives. And of course, we have Windsor has a legal aid office because we have a courthouse. So. I know some of the folks there, but not, they've all long gone probably, and some new faces I should go meet. But can you, I guess in the short period of time, discuss maybe how you are or elaborate on collecting the data to make sure that the Commission works to respond as needs and the changes evolve and change, like how you do keep your data? I know we talked about it, but it might be a nice way to finish up.
1 minute, Ms. Moore.
I'm going to try to be really fast. We have 2 IT people who serve. We have 195 staff across the province in those 23 offices providing service, and they keep our systems going, but they're also involved in the collecting of data. So we use our daily time reports that collects the data that will tell us the types of matters that we are providing service to, how many files we've opened, what we've closed, the average file time, where demand is greater, the areas of law that where demand is greater. It also gives us the self-identification piece. So where are our clients, where do we see our Indigenous and African Nova Scotian clients in particular? And does that reflect an overrepresentation? So I'd mentioned like the 20%.
Order.
Okay.
Time for questioning has elapsed. My apologies, but nonetheless. I'd like to thank our witnesses for coming in today and speaking to this very important topic. I don't know if you have any plans to make closing remarks, but if you do have any closing remarks, you're welcome to do so right now. Ms. Moore.
Just quickly, we wanted to thank the committee for the opportunity of having us here to talk about our program. And I also wanted to thank all of our staff who provide the service every day. And I just wanted to share a quote that our past director with Nova Scotia Legal Aid said, is that our history teaches us that legal aid is not a charitable endeavor but a necessary enterprise. And the lawyers who come to Nova Scotia Legal Aid, it's a calling for them, and they often see it as a privilege to do the work that they do, and I just wanted to say thank you to them as well.
Thank you very much. You are free now to go out into the world and help people with their legal issues, and you won't have to hear the pounding. We'll just continue on with committee business. Thank you very much.
No, we don't all go through 3-4
So we'll proceed now with committee business. There is no committee business. So our next meeting date is April 5th. It's in camera, the pre-hearing briefing from the Office of the Auditor General, the Department of Public Works most recent accountability report and business plan. Is there any further business? There being none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.